Alright, so what we want to do next is we want to tie in our road to our parking. You can see here in the 3D view that our road is a little bit lower, quite a bit lower than our parking. And the road, remember, we did from our preliminary planning stages, just to get an idea of what we could accomplish here. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify the corridor. I'm going to start by moving the corridor back to this segment here where my curb returns come back, and this is where our curb will end, and then we'll get into just a shoulder and a ditch within the corridor that will tie in with some ditches. So I'm going to go to the corridor, I'm going to go to the main road, and we're going to add a transition in here. So I'm going to come in and just right click on the main road. We will insert corridor template, and we're going to begin with a new one at the end of this. So that's a beginning station, and the new definition is just null. We're just going to call this a null template. We're not going to put in any instructions. It's just going to stop the corridor at this location. So it'll move it back. Then we're going to have to adjust the vertical profile here. So here we're just we're not going to do anything. We're just going to hit close, and now you can see that it's pulled that corridor back to here. Next, what we'll do is we will draw a line string, and we'll elevate some curves. Actually, elevate some curves and draw a line string. So this curve line here, if we right click and edit it, we want to be a constant 2%. So if you remember, when we did our main parking, this part of the parking we're sloping back into the parking lot at a 2%. So the end here didn't get an elevation point. So we're going to add an elevation point at the beginning or the end of the line here. And we're going to put this by outgoing slope. So if we look at the horizontal tab, we know that it's going in that direction. Okay, so it's going in the out direction. This is going to be an outgoing slope, and the distance is at the 0 point, and the outgoing slope is going to be -2. So it's going to set the elevation of that point right there. Okay. We'll do the same thing on the other side, where we will change this to an incoming slope, and we will set the point here, and we'll actually incoming slope being a +2. Now we're going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment to this, because what we want to do is join. So I'm going to use the join line command, and I'm going to join this line to that line. Okay, so we've got this being our first line, and then this being our second line, which we've already done. So we'll close that. So we've already got that joined. Okay. So what we want to do is actually we are going to delete that point. We're going to insert another one. So I should have done this. Should have joined them first and then added this one. So again, this one's going to be a incoming slope would be of a +2. Okay, so that's going to come up to there. Now we want to modify these other ones. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select this back curb here, and we will insert a VPI at this point, and that's going to be a cross slope or an offset slope from this line. The cross slope will be 50% or a 2-to-1 for our top back of curb, and our distance will be at the end. We'll do the same thing over here. Our reference line string is this one. Cross slope is 50%. Our distance across is going to be right there. So now we've elevated the top back of that curve. So now that we have that, what we want to do is we want to draw another line as a temporary line. So I'm just going to draw this, and we're just going to call this temp line. Keep it on the break line layer, that's fine. I'm going to click OK. My coordinate's going to be at this first point, and then I'm going to come over here, we'll pick a point there, and we will pick a point here. Now I'm going to get rid of the elevations on these. I'm going to get rid of that elevation. Actually, I'm going to leave, well, let's get rid of that elevation. We'll hit save, and we'll get rid of this elevation, and we'll hit save there. And then what we do is we will come back and we will add a vertex or an insertion point. Okay, so I'm going to add a point here, and that's going to be an incoming slope of +2% because we got our crown of our road. And then I'm going to put a point over here, incoming slope of -2, and we'll hit save there. Okay, now that should tie into this, and it actually doesn't, so there's a little bit of a slope here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to modify this one because it's a little bit longer, so I'm going to go back and edit that one. Okay, so I could have done this in any order, but I'm going to do it where we're going to change this elevation so that the elevation is actually at the end of this line here. Okay. Okay, so now that we have that, we know where to tie in our center line of our road. So I'm going to pick the horizontal alignment, and we're going to go into edit, and I'm going to go to vertical, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a row here. So I'm going to click here, we'll insert a row. My station or grade break is going to be here, and my elevation is going to be from the surface snap of my road design at this point here. Okay, so we put that elevation there. So now if I click in this row here, it's going to update that. You're going to see that we've got our incoming slope, and I can actually delete this last vertice, so I'm going to delete that row. And you'll see that when we look at this, is that our corridor has been adjusted. Okay, or let's just go back. So we got that. This actually should be, let's make sure we got that right. The elevation here should actually be the end point. So we're going to pick along this line snap, and we're going to pick that point. So actually our elevation should be at that 451. Okay. So now when we click out of there, it should adjust our corridor. So now our corridor is adjusted to our proper cross tie. So now when we go and rebuild that surface, it will readjust all these, and now we've got a proper tie into our road corridor in this area. So then what we're going to do next is we'll come back and we'll clean this up, because we're going to add a ditch over here. We're going to clean this up for a pond. And then we also have to come down here and clean up our intersection. So we'll show you that next.